That leaves us one decision. So with that said, let's dispatch it using our mate Dave. I've got the Mobius camera. Now, many of you may know this camera because Sir Andrew Newton is a massive fan of the Mobius. For me, it's been a tool which I've had available to me, but I've never really been that inspired by it. Although I must say, now that it's broken, which is no in part to Dave, by the way, is that I am actually missing it as a recording device. And the reason why I'm missing it is because the audio quality on this is absolutely fantastic. And I know Runcam have brought out the Runcam 3S, and the audio quality is pretty damn good on that as well. But it's still nowhere on par and nowhere near what the Mobius was. And again, it's nothing quite like having something which is maybe a little bit aerodynamic, streamlined compared to the Runcam 3S, because that's just a brick. Whereas this one, yeah, a little bit disappointed. So the symptoms are as follows. Basically, you press the power button and it doesn't do anything. I've tried changing the memory cards, which I should probably take that out and put that to one side. It just shows a blue light, and that's all we've had. It won't record. I've tried charging it many different times with different leads as well, just to be on the safe side. But no, that leaves us one decision. So with that said, let's dispatch it using our mate Dave. You would not believe the lengths I just had to go to get inside this camera. The first little screw did come out very, very easily, but this one on the bottom left-hand side, that's so far down inside, I had to resort to desperate measures to be able to actually get in there. They really don't want you to get inside of these things, that's for sure. So I tell you what, let's go and see if we can get this thing opened up. Now, I'm just going to press that on there so we focus. And we'll see what we've got inside. Now, you've got to keep in the back of your mind is that when you've got something which is broken, you can't break it any more than broken. So don't what I'm trying to say is never be afraid of opening something up if it's already broke, okay? Because you're not going to do it any more harm, because by definition it was already broke in the first place. So is this actually focusing on air? One would hope so. Ah, look, there you go. I'm using the iPad. My main camera's broken at the moment. Good old Sony quality. Anyway, so the obvious thing is for us to take... Oh, that was easy. Can you see the issue? No wonder it didn't bloody work. And this is my point. I had no idea what was going to go on here, but in my mind, it was already broken. So heck, let's hit record and see what happens. And I genuinely thought it was going to be the battery, which is the issue. But no, look what the issue is. Can you see? In fact, let me just put this down and we'll just tap on there to make sure it focuses. Look what's happened. The ribbon cable has come out of the back of the camera. So no wonder we've got a bloody issue. Right, this makes things a little bit easier. So, yeah, good job we didn't really use Dave on it, because we could have done some serious damage. Now, where's me little doodah on here? That one, no, I want that one there. Very handy tool all set. It saved my butt numerous times. Now, we've got a ribbon cable here and something's got to move. So I'm thinking the white bit's got to move, and I'm just going to give it a poke and a prod. No, the white bit doesn't look like it's moving or should move. So, or should it? Again, this is, remember, it is already broken. Can't really break it anymore. And I'm just going careful not to damage. Oh, shit. There we go. Well, something quite like really breaking it. So I wonder if we can just unplug that battery and get that out of the way. Yeah, that makes things a little bit lighter. I'll tell you what, while we're here, let's have a quick nose around what we've got in here. So just going to hold that still for a moment. So what have we got here? We have the battery connector here. We've got the microphone, which is actually bigger than the microphone which is in the Runcam 2. Maybe that's, well, to be honest, I think it's probably just a better quality microphone and better circuitry to give us better overall better audio. Now obviously if we stick this on top of a model airplane, then hey, it's going to get loads of wind noise, and there's something two ways around it. Then we've just got, what have we got here? We'll have our video processor, which I'm guessing is on the opposite side of the card. We've got our SD card here, USB in. Now to be honest, I did have a little hunch or a rough idea that it might have been the USB connector, because if you think about this camera, most of this stuff should be staying still. Well, one would have thought staying still for most of the time, but the one thing which is going to get wear and tear would have been the USB connector. So it's nice to see that, well, it's the USB, it's the big fat one, so I don't want to drop that piece. It's the big fat connector on the back. So it does make it slightly easier to solder in a new one. A job which I've had to do once before, and it wasn't particularly easy, but it was better than one of the little micro ones. That's for sure, because of these tiny little pads, which are right down here at the bottom. So Matty has been and bent that perhaps just a tad too much there, and we've got a placeholder for the camera as well. So yeah, I genuinely cannot remember abusing this one. All I can remember is that this one just stopped working at the field. I went to use it, got it out of the flight bag, and it just stopped working, which was quite disappointing because I needed it at the time and had to swap to do a Runcam, which then meant I had to do a load of audio processing work afterwards when I got home, because the audio on the Runcam 2 is just so bad. So what I'm trying to do is just sit that back in there, which is going to be a little bit of a faff. Is that going right up here? Again, this is where looking on the internet might have been a little bit of a good idea, because then you'll actually know what it looks like from the inside. So how curious. We aren't missing any bits, nothing else is falling out. Not entirely sure how far that's supposed to go in. I'll tell you what, I'm just gonna, I've had to do some of this off camera, apologies, it is a very fiddly little job. Again, I do keep in the back of my mind is that this camera, for all intents and purposes, was a write-off in my head, so that's why we're opening it up and going to be using Dave on it. But if this fixes it, well, then that's classed as happy days. So I don't know which way around this thing's supposed to go. It is a tiny little blade which I've got to get in there, and yeah, I'll tell you what, we'll stick it one way or the other, and one way will work and one way won't. Right, so I'm just going to present that up. I love that word, I'll spit my words out. Present. I learned that off my dad. He was putting a set of calipers on a car, and he used that word, present. Absolutely brilliant. And us presenting this up to this isn't going very well at the moment. I'm maybe not using the best tool, and I do have some big fat fingers which really are probably not helping. Ladies, gentlemen, unfortunately we have some bad news for you. The patient did not survive surgery. If we look closely here, when I was taking the back clip off, I did actually manage to snap off the clip which was just here on the corner, and there was this grey little bar which is in there, which holds the camera down inside, or the ribbon cable down inside. Unfortunately, that just would not stay in place, and then one thing led to another, and it actually ended up in the bin bag, which is just in front of me, or just in front of us just here. So I took that as a sign to try and just basically write this off now. I have just been on the intervals, and you can buy this main board as a replacement. Now, the cheapest I could find it was £28.84 or something off eBay, and it was a different colour board, so somewhat suspect, if that makes when it was actually coming from Mobius or not, or the company who make this. And what I did do, actually, which I didn't catch on the camera, is that I did have the ribbon cable in there, pressed down. I did connect out the battery. I did also try the external power supply, and it was still just not functioning correctly. We could get a green light to come on, but it would not record. And again, you just make a point. I did put the SD card in there and try a couple of different routes, and yeah, it's not working out very well for this camera. So I'll tell you what I'm gonna do, is because I don't want to just stick it in a bin or smash it with Dave over there, is that I'll offer it up to the lads, which I normally find with at the Funny Farm, because they use the Mobiuses an awful lot, and that means that they'll get a spare battery and a spare lens as well. So it will live on eventually, but with somebody else. So I always said this about the Mobius camera, is that if it broke, I would just never replace it. And that's actually what's been happened here. So the Mobius camera, they are good. The audio is exceptional on them. Like I said, Sir Andrew Newton is a massive fan of these cameras. However, for me, I've found it a little bit bewildering just because of the video quality which comes out of this camera compared to the Runcam 2, which is by far my favourite camera, although the audio is crap on it. But saying that, they've brought out the Runcam 3S, which I know is a bit of a brick, but the audio quality is good enough on that one. So yeah, I finally got round to taking a serious look at this one. We did find what looked like was the issue here, but actually on closer inspection, that while again, for you, this is my whole point of this video was to just make the point, is that if something's broken and on the edge of being thrown in the bin, is that you can't break it anymore. So you may think, well, Matt, you completely knackered it because you've broken a bit of plastic on there. No, that's not the case at all. This was already broken. I was going to stick it in the bin, but heck, I hit record on here just to see what happened. And it turned out we did have a very obvious physical breakage in between the connectors here. However, on closer inspection, that's obviously shorted out or done something bad to the board, and that's pretty much the end of it. So rather than this getting recycled-ish into the landfill, I will offer it up to the lads over in the Facebook group to see if anybody else wants the lens and the battery, because I'm sure it's had very light usage. That's why it was genuinely surprised it actually broke, and I can't believe that the ribbon cables come loose, because this camera has had genuinely, and this is going to be unbelievable from me saying this, is had very, very little abuse. It's had quite a bit of use, let's be fair here, over the last year or so. But as far as abuse goes, I don't even think I've ever smashed a model in the ground with this on it, to my knowledge. It's always been the Runcam 2s which I've used for that. This one's always been sat either me holding it chatting to you on the camera, or it's been sat on top of the baseball cap to record some model flying around in the sky. So it has had a well-used life, but it has also had a well-sheltered life, if that makes sense, especially compared to the Runcam 2, which has had just so much abuse in its entire lifetime. So that poor camera, I can't believe it's still going. This one, I'm actually shocked that it's broke. So, but anyway, I will offer it up to the lads. I hope it goes on to a new home. But main board, I'm not paying 28 quid to replace a main board on here, and it may or may not work afterwards, because we still don't know if it's the camera unit itself or the main board. And again, it is not until one of the lads break the Mobius screen and the lens and they have to replace it, will they know whether this is broken, which I strongly suspect it's not broken. It's more likely to be this. But because obviously there's way more components here for it to go wrong compared to this, but at least that they've now got some spares. As for the battery, it did last quite a decent amount of time. But now look, yeah, Mobius, 820. That's really not on focus, is it? Yeah, 820 milliamperes. So yeah, genuinely impressed with the battery life. However, the camera itself, as I said many moons ago, if it ever broke, I would never replace it. And today, a year or two on, that's the scenario which you're in. So, cheerio, Mobius. Thank you very much. You've been a loyal servant here at Rag the Nuts Off. You have recorded some really good fun. But it is time for you to move on. So with that said, for myself, Matt, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this episode. Remember, one takeaway from you for this video, I've mentioned it twice before, once more, is that if something's already broken to the point it's going to go in the bin, take it apart. Do what I did, put a drill in it so I could get it apart. Have a nose. You may be genuinely surprised, and there's a really obvious fault in there, which is maybe the ribbon cable's fallen out or the battery's come unplugged. Something simple like that may end up you being able to continue the life of a product. But in this case, That didn't happen, even though we had a really easy or obvious fault in the actual camera itself. But anyway, it's going to go on, live somewhere else, get abused, all happy days. So for myself, Matt, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this episode. I'm off now. Cheerios!